Hollow Man is a science fiction horror thriller directed by Paul Verhoeven. While the movie appears to be about invisibility technology, its deeper focus is on human nature, power, and the consequences of living without accountability. The story centers on Dr. Sebastian Kane, a brilliant scientist who leads a secret research project devoted to making living creatures invisible. Sebastian is highly intelligent and respected for his scientific achievements, but from the beginning he displays traits that hint at larger problems. He is arrogant, impatient, and convinced that his own judgment is superior to everyone else's. His confidence allows him to achieve extraordinary scientific breakthroughs, but it also blinds him to ethical boundaries. At first, Sebastian's work appears revolutionary. His team succeeds in making animals invisible and restoring them safely. The achievement promises to change science forever. However, Sebastian is not satisfied with gradual progress. Driven by ambition and a desire for recognition, he chooses to become the first human test subject. This decision reflects one of the movie's central themes: the danger of unchecked ambition. The invisibility procedure works, and Sebastian becomes completely invisible. For a short time, he treats the situation almost like a game. He enjoys the novelty of his condition and the attention his achievement receives. Yet when the team discovers they cannot reverse the process, Sebastian's emotional state begins to deteriorate. The psychological transformation that follows is the heart of the film. Sebastian is suddenly cut off from normal human interaction. People cannot look at him, read his expressions, or relate to him in ordinary ways. Although his colleagues continue trying to help him, he feels increasingly isolated. The movie suggests that prolonged isolation can damage a person's mental stability, especially someone who already possesses narcissistic tendencies. As Sebastian spends more time invisible, he begins to realize that he can act without being seen. Normally, social behavior is regulated by the knowledge that other people are watching and judging us. Invisibility removes that restraint. Sebastian discovers that he can enter places unnoticed, observe private moments, and avoid consequences for his actions. The film raises an important question: does invisibility turn Sebastian evil, or does it simply reveal the darkness that was already inside him? The movie strongly suggests the second explanation. Even before the experiment, Sebastian often ignores rules and dismisses the concerns of others. He manipulates colleagues, hides information, and believes that his goals justify risky decisions. Invisibility merely removes the barriers preventing those traits from becoming more dangerous. One of the most interesting aspects of the film is its examination of power. Throughout history, many stories have explored what happens when individuals gain extraordinary abilities. Some use those powers responsibly, while others become corrupted. Sebastian falls into the second category. Because nobody can see him, he begins to feel superior to everyone around him. He starts viewing other people not as equals but as obstacles or tools. This growing sense of superiority causes his moral standards to collapse. Actions that once seemed unacceptable become easier to justify. His empathy declines, and his concern for others disappears. The film portrays corruption as a gradual process rather than a sudden change. Sebastian does not become a monster overnight. Instead, each decision pushes him further away from his humanity. The laboratory setting reinforces these themes. Most of the movie takes place inside a secure underground research facility. Initially, the laboratory symbolizes scientific progress and human achievement. It is a place where brilliant minds work together to expand knowledge. As Sebastian's behavior worsens, the same environment becomes threatening and claustrophobic. The facility transforms from a center of discovery into a prison. Doors, corridors, elevators, and ventilation systems become sources of fear because Sebastian can move through them unseen. The audience shares the character's anxiety because the threat is invisible. Unlike traditional monsters, Sebastian cannot easily be located. His presence is often indicated only by sounds, movement, or subtle environmental clues. This creates much of the movie's suspense. Horror often depends on uncertainty, and invisibility represents the ultimate uncertainty. The characters know the danger exists, but they cannot determine where it is. Every shadow and every noise becomes a potential threat. Another significant theme is the relationship between science and ethics. The scientists in the movie are capable of remarkable technological achievements, but they are less prepared for the ethical consequences of their discoveries. The film asks whether scientific progress should always be pursued simply because it is possible. Sebastian believes that success justifies risk. Other members of the team are more cautious and concerned about safety. This conflict reflects real-world debates surrounding advanced technologies. Scientific breakthroughs can improve lives, but they can also create new dangers when developed without sufficient ethical consideration. The character of Linda McKay serves as a moral counterbalance to Sebastian. While he is driven primarily by ambition and personal achievement, Linda values responsibility and teamwork. She understands that scientific discoveries affect real people and must be handled carefully. As the story progresses, she emerges as one of the few individuals capable of challenging Sebastian's growing tyranny. Matt Kensington plays a similar role. Together, Linda and Matt represent cooperation and accountability. Their partnership contrasts sharply with Sebastian's selfishness. The movie repeatedly shows that collective effort is more effective than individual arrogance. While Sebastian relies on his own brilliance, the others survive by trusting one another and working together. Visually, the film uses special effects to emphasize both wonder and horror. The scenes showing animals and people becoming invisible were considered groundbreaking at the time of release. The gradual disappearance of skin, muscles, and internal organs creates a striking visual representation of transformation. These effects are not merely technical achievements, they also support the story's themes. As Sebastian becomes physically invisible, he also becomes morally invisible. The boundaries that once defined his identity begin to disappear. The loss of his visible form mirrors the loss of his humanity. The title, Hollow Man, carries symbolic meaning as well. By the end of the story, Sebastian is hollow in several senses. He lacks empathy, compassion, and moral responsibility. Although he possesses extraordinary intelligence, he has become spiritually and emotionally empty. The title suggests that true humanity depends not on physical appearance but on ethical behavior and human connection. The ending of the film reinforces these ideas. During the final confrontation, Sebastian uses every advantage his invisibility provides. Yet despite his power, he is ultimately defeated. His downfall occurs because he underestimates the determination and intelligence of the people he considers inferior. The climax demonstrates that power alone is not enough to ensure victory. Sebastian's arrogance prevents him from recognizing his own weaknesses. He believes that invisibility makes him invincible, but his confidence becomes a liability. Meanwhile, Linda and Matt succeed because they adapt, cooperate, and remain focused on protecting others. From a symbolic perspective, Sebastian's defeat represents the failure of selfish ambition. Throughout the movie, he attempts to place himself above ordinary human limitations. He wants complete freedom without responsibility. The ending shows that such freedom is ultimately destructive. Many viewers interpret the film as a cautionary tale about accountability. In everyday life, laws, social expectations, and personal relationships encourage responsible behavior. Sebastian's invisibility removes those constraints, revealing what can happen when a person believes they are beyond consequences. The movie also explores loneliness. Although Sebastian initially enjoys his condition, invisibility gradually separates him from everyone else. Human beings are social creatures who depend on connection and recognition. Being unseen eventually becomes a curse rather than a gift. The irony is that Sebastian achieves his scientific dream only to discover that it destroys the life he hoped to improve. More than 2 decades after its release, Hollow Man remains an interesting blend of science fiction and psychological horror. While some viewers focus on its special effects and suspenseful action sequences, the movie's lasting appeal comes from its exploration of human nature. At its core, the film asks a simple but unsettling question: what would you do if nobody could see you and nobody could stop you? Sebastian's answer is frightening because it reveals how easily power can corrupt a person who lacks humility and self-control. His story serves as a warning that technology alone cannot solve human problems. Character, ethics, and responsibility remain essential regardless of how advanced science becomes. Ultimately, Hollow Man is not really about invisibility. It is about the invisible parts of human nature, desires, fears, ambitions, and impulses that normally remain hidden beneath the surface. When those hidden aspects are unleashed without restraint, the result can be far more terrifying than any monster.